Hi guys, welcome to Westminster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie.
And today on the show, Jeremy Corbyn's speech on the customs union, Nigel Farage's trip to America, and Brexit good news. Thank you very much for joining us. Tell us what you think as we go. And Patrick, we start with this speech today from Jeremy Corbyn.
Absolutely. Well, this is the headline of our show. Do you think there's been an almighty Brexit betrayal? Has Jeremy Corbyn stabbed the nation in the back when it comes to Brexit? He's just announced today, he's done a landmark speech, saying that basically actually he's quite keen on the idea of Britain staying in a customs union. Of course, when Keir Starmer was asked what this would mean practically in terms of difference, he basically said it would be exactly the same as the customs union. So I wouldn't expect too much difference there. So really, guys, what does this mean for Brexit? Nothing screams national sovereignty like the chance to maybe have a say in a trade deal.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, completely organised and signed by an overarching superstate. So we want you to pile in with your comments here, guys. Let us know what you think. Has Jeremy Corbyn betrayed the nation on Brexit?
Now, cast your mind back, guys, to the referendum. And you'll remember one of the central pillars of the Leave campaign was this idea of having an independent trade policy outside of the European Union, free to negotiate global trade deals. And make no mistake about it, Labour are basically turning their back on that now. They're basically saying, well, yeah, we know that's what people voted for, but actually we know best. And this whole tricky-dicky approach of saying, oh no, we'll come out of the customs union and then we'll rejoin a customs union that's exactly the same, and we'll have a little bit of a say in it. I mean, it's Mickey Mouse stuff, guys, really.
But what a total and utter lack of respect for the British public, for the intelligence of the British public. To go, oh, well, no, they won't notice. They'll think everything is completely different, won't they? If we change the word the to a in front of customs union. But then you are openly coming out, as Keir Starmer did on Sunday, talking about, actually it's going to be exactly the same. I mean, come on, guys, what are you really getting at here?
Now, the comments are rocketing in, and we will read some in a minute, but I just want to raise this point, guys, that one of the biggest critiques until recently of this whole idea of a customs union agreement is actually someone called Barry Gardiner, and he's written some very interesting things. We start off in The Guardian. Barry Gardiner, the Trade Secretary, Shadow Trade Secretary for Labour, he wrote a piece in The Guardian, and there you have it. Brexit means leaving the single market and the customs union. Here's why. Some very interesting stuff in there, guys, including one particular quote that you're going to find very, very interesting. We're just going to get it up there for you. And here we go. Barry, as a transitional phase, a customs union agreement might be thought to have some merit. However, as an endpoint, it is deeply unattractive. It would preclude us from making our own independent trade agreements with our 5 largest export markets outside of the EU, the US, China, Japan, Australia, and the Gulf states. Now, this isn't just some random backbencher.
No.
This is Labour's main man on trade. This is their spokesman for that
area. So what's changed, Barry?
What has changed, Barry? What has changed? Tell us what you think about this, guys. But there's a few more little bits that Mr. Gardiner said. What have we got up next here? We've got the comments that he made on the
Twitter,
BBC.
I think. Well, we've got some here that he's...
there's loads, guys. There's a whole backlog of stuff.
We've got some comments here that he's made on Twitter firstly. So he basically was trying to be pinned to the mast on the whole customs union thing. And he's outlined it here clearly on Twitter. I'll read his tweet now, saying, we cease to be a member of the customs union when we leave the EU. A customs union agreement with the EU, like Turkey has, would give the EU power to decide our tariffs and quotas with third countries.
We'll bring that up in a minute, guys, but there was also a BBC quote, so we go to that now. So this is the Barry Gardiner speaking to the BBC about staying in a customs union.
It's from you, Barry, before we move on.
I just want to point out the issue around the customs union. You leave the customs union because only member states of the European Union are members of the customs union. Other countries like Turkey have a separate customs union agreement, but the trouble with that is that it gives you an asymmetrical relationship with the countries, the third-party countries that the EU does a deal with. So the EU could do a deal with another country, let's say America, which we would be bound by in the UK. We would have to accept the liberalisation of our markets. We would have to accept their goods coming into our markets on the terms agreed by Europe, which could be prejudicial to us, but we would not have the same access into America's markets. We would be bound to try and negotiate it, but why would America give us that access when it's got all the liberalisation of our market that it wants?
Well,
it's a disaster.
Within Labour ranks,
So there you go, it's a disaster, apparently. I mean, what has changed, Bazza?
Yeah, well,
What's
this
changed?
is interesting, isn't it? I mean, a lot of your guys' comments are coming in, so I'm just going to read through here. Total betrayal by Labour on behalf of Brexit voters. That's Alan Masterson. We've got loads, and the Labour Party will sell him down the river after this. That's from Robert Grosvenor. And yeah, so loads of them here. He's a nutcase. That's from Gwyneth Dunkley. Bit to the point there. Corbyn is betraying Brexit. From the news stories, he's betrayed his country. So there's a lot of these kind of flavour there of the comments that we're getting in. Not a lot of support for Corbyn.
But I do just want to give you the Barry Gardner hat trick.
Oh, fantastic.
Which is the tweet that Patrick mentioned earlier. We'll just bring that up for you as well. So here's the tweet.
Yep, so basically says we cease to be a member of the customs union when we leave the EU. But that's okay, isn't it, Barry? Because now we're a member of a customs union. A customs union, a completely different setup. Oh, well, maybe not, because he says here, a customs union agreement with the EU, like Turkey has, would give the EU power to decide our tariffs and quotas with third countries. We'd be forced to liberalise our market, but have no reciprocal access to theirs. So basically an asymmetrical system that isn't Brexit because we haven't taken back control of our trade deal. So when you've got their actual trade secretary saying this, their shadow trade secretary saying this, it does hint at maybe actually this isn't all good, is it?
I mean, it's sort of quite obviously a complete joke of a position that Labour have now taken. But actually it's not very funny, because it basically says to me that the Labour Party are now saying, well, we know what the public voted for, we know what the referendum was about, but we know best. We're overruling you, and ultimately, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of this, guys, this is all about one thing for the Labour Party now. It's about bringing down the government. It's about bringing down Theresa May. They've abandoned any sort of principle on Brexit whatsoever. You know, Jeremy Corbyn, the old principle, Eurosceptic socialist. Well, no, I'm afraid now it's all about getting the keys to Downing Street. It's all about becoming Prime Minister. It's all about bringing Theresa May down. It's all about teaming up with Tory Ramonas like Anna Soubry to push to stay in a customs union. And I'm afraid that is what the Labour position is. There's no principle left here. It's all about causing division.
Well,
it is party before country, and it is a disgrace.
Well, this is it, and it really could come back to bite them, because we've got a lot of comments coming in already. Leslie White saying, I will never vote Labour, they don't stand for us anymore. And Andrew Mugginson saying, Jeremy Corbyn is a traitor. And it's this kind of thing that I actually reckon this short-term, direct kind of grab for power that Jeremy Corbyn's doing now, which is clearly, if he can manage to get Parliament to vote to have some form of customs union, that clearly causes some form of constitutional crisis, because the government can't just push through their agendas to get us out. That's when general elections can happen. It's when a second referendum can happen. So he's clearly here on a bit of an almighty power grab. But there is a big problem with this, isn't there, Jez? And that is that 70% of your constituencies actually voted to leave, didn't they? So really, if that happens and you now seem trap us in some kind of customs union, surely you're going to lose a load of your votes. Plus, he's made a reputation as being a man of deep conviction and principle, hasn't he? That's something that young voters especially have resonated with, because actually to them, most politicians are just standout liars. So Corbyn was always deemed to be a man of integrity and honesty, and now he's rowing back on years of Euroscepticism. Where's his credibility? Completely shot.
Guys, don't forget, Uncensored is 1 o'clock, same time, same place, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Go and visit westmonster.com for all these stories and more. And if you want to support us, go to westmonster.com/support. A very interesting comment on Twitter here from Daniel Tyrone saying, time for Labour, time for change. Daniel, my old son, I think you're a bit confused. The Labour position now isn't to change anything. It's to stay basically where we are, the customs union, perhaps the single market, perhaps open borders. If you want change, my old son, he's just made a speech basically talking about maintaining the status quo. So this idea of Labour bringing about sweeping political radical change, I'm afraid, it's gone, mate. They want to stop these little Europeans, and Jeremy Corbyn, I'm afraid, has been captured by them in his own party. These little Europeans don't want Britain to be able to do global trade deals. That's what people voted for. That's what they want to see. That's what Jeremy Corbyn just gave a speech against.
Well, I like the fact that a load of people that are anti-Brexit seem to be blaming the old people for ruining the country, don't they? Well, there's an old man now who's the head of Labour, and he looks like pretty intent on trapping the country into the customs union, which we think would obviously not be a key pillar of what the people voted for in Brexit. How can you possibly wrap this up and present it as, oh, well, no, because people didn't specifically tick a box saying they wanted to leave the customs union? I mean, I think it was pretty bloody obvious, wasn't it, really, what we were doing? And now we're in a situation where they want to trap us in this little little group of nations as opposed to being able to go and take full advantage of the global economy, much of which is growing at a quicker rate than the European Union.
Guys, great numbers today on the socials. Thank you very much. Do give us a retweet on Twitter. Do give us a like and a share on Facebook if you enjoy what we're doing. And as I say, don't forget, it's 1 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday for Westminster Uncensored.
And, of course, you will have noticed that Barry Gardner did a piece in The Guardian before basically outlining the fact that the customs union will be a total disaster. He's now rowed back on that, but of course you won't see that kind of thing in The Guardian, you won't see that kind of thing in the mainstream media. You only get the kind of true news here at Westminster, and we do want you to help us grow and help us keep exposing these kind of things for you. So that's westminster.com/support. Make sure you give us a little helping hand.
Now, there are some principled Brexiteers still in the Labour Party. In terms of the parliamentary party, in terms of MPs, it's a dwindling number. But we look at someone like Kate Hoey at the weekend made some very interesting comments.
Yeah.
She was on Sky News
Honorary
saying,
bad boy of Brexit, of course.
Well, bad lady of Brexit. She basically said, I don't understand how we can have a customs union that would give us the freedom to make our own trade deals. It still gives the EU control, and people wanted to take back control. It's quite simple, really. And she's right, isn't she? She went on to say, when you think how long it's taken the EU to get trade deals, they still haven't got them with China, America. There's a growing group of people who know that we're leaving, hate the fact that we're leaving, and want to try to find a way where we're leaving, but in name only. Kate Hoey is absolutely bang on. For the Labour Party to think they can get away with this pathetic little game of saying we're coming out of the customs union, rejoining another customs union, and the end game is this, guys. You've now got a Labour leader in Jeremy Corbyn talking about the customs union this way. What's to say this doesn't evolve over the next few months and years into, you know, we've seen over the weekend other Labour MPs saying, well, you know, if we're going to stay in a customs union, why don't we just stay in the single market as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we just stay in the single market as well, why don't we just call the whole thing off? I mean, look, it was only the British people that voted for this. It was no one in Westminster important like us, was it? It wasn't the MPs that want this. Don't forget, guys, if we left this to the politicians, none of this would be happening. This referendum was called. It was a vote by the people. It wasn't a vote by MPs. The government promised to implement the decision, the will of the people, and yet they think they can cherry pick and frustrate and water down this process as much as they can. I suspect there's going to be huge anger. Patrick, what are the comments we're getting?
Yeah, well, they are quite angry as it happens. Kevin Barton saying, yes, he's pathetic. Rick Long saying, it was clearly defined before the referendum that a vote to leave means leaving the customs market, customs union, single market, etc., etc. We knew what we voted for. We need May out, and, well, just someone there going on about Theresa May,
basically. We need Farage there from Nick, I see as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I wonder whether Jeremy Corbyn has weighed this up. And he thought, look, okay, so normally if I was to row back on this whole Brexit thing, I would potentially lose 70% of my seats. But it's interesting because actually UKIP isn't the force that it once was. And where is the party that these people would naturally turn to? These Labour voters that have become disillusioned with Corbyn's leadership over the European Union. Well, they're not going to go to the Tories, are they? I mean, Theresa May is basically some kind of comical hate figure now. So you're not going to hop over to the Tories. They're not really going to go to Lib Dem.
They're hedging their bets that that's the case, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not going to go to Lib Dem, you would have thought. And there's really nowhere for them to go at the minute. And so you think maybe that's had a factor in Corbyn's decision-making with this. He might cling on to his vote base purely on the fact that they haven't really got anywhere else to go.
But as Nigel Farage said on Daily Politics, BBC Daily Politics, he said, you know, if the Conservatives did have the guts now to just go out and say, look, we are going to bring in border controls, we are going to fully go ahead with Brexit and forget about the stupid transition and do all of that stuff and push ahead and convince people, then they would have a big opportunity, a big chance here, because you can see the Labour position softening from here. It starts with the customs union. Does it then go to single market? Does it then go to open borders? I don't think Labour now, I think their position is very, very precarious, and I think they're going to seriously underestimate the level of anger this is going to cause, not just for people that vote Leave, but the people that across the country, whether they vote Leave or Remain, that just want the government to get on with it. They want to see an end to open borders. They want to see our country negotiating global trade deals. I mean, for God's sake, you've got the US president sat there next to our Prime Minister the other day, talking about, yes, we want to do a trade deal. And yet we're going to come to this in a bit. Nigel Farage over in America, you may have seen about it. You know, big signals being sent to America that because we've got a transition and because this has been quite a drawn-out process, well, when can you do a deal? Will it be in 2021? Will it be in 2022? Will it be by the end of Donald Trump's first term or not? You know, there's a huge mixed signals going out. And if we can have a radical approach to Brexit that goes full steam ahead, doesn't waste any more time and gets on and delivers what people voted for, I think it'll be massively popular.
And there's just one final thing I'd really like to say on this whole customs union thing is that people go, all right, well, what's so much of a big deal about it? You know, all right, well, it's just a customs union. All right, okay, yeah, but as Michael said there, it's the first step, really, potentially along the way, of actually us pretty much not leaving the European Union at all. The customs union itself clearly would nullify Britain's ability to go and negotiate trade deals around the world. That was a key pillar of Brexit. It would
global Britain, isn't it? That's
absolutely.
what we want.
It would necessitate some form of ECJ rule, because that's how the customs union has to work. There would have to be some influence in the British legal system and the way we trade, handed down to us by the ECJ. That was a key pillar of Brexit that people wanted out of that. The other thing, as reported in the Financial Times today as well, was saying that actually this could lead to some form of condition on there being some element of free movement of people if you are part of this customs union. So you have the free movement of people side, the ECJ side, and the not being able to negotiate free trade deals around the world. That isn't Brexit.
Just to recap, guys, we just had a huge surge of people on Facebook join us. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching live on Facebook right now.
So let's go. Just tell them what they've missed.
Just to recap, guys, and don't forget, this is 1 o'clock UK time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Jeremy Corbyn today giving a speech confirming the fact that Labour's position basically is going to be to push for a customs union. They're being very tricky-dicky about it. They're saying, well, we're going to leave the customs union, which precludes the UK from negotiating global trade deals. Of course, that's what people voted for in the Brexit referendum. It was a key pillar of it. Now they're going back on that and saying, well, no, we'll have a customs union. Basically, it shows you that Labour positioning is softening. Nigel Farage and others saying this is sort of, you're going to see a full Labour sellout on Brexit. The Ramonas have captured the Labour Party. Any sort of semblance of Jeremy Corbyn being an old, principled, socialist, Eurosceptic
gone,
flown out
finito.
the window, because they believe by teaming up with the likes of Anna Soubry and Tory backbench Remainers in Parliament, who are going to push for a customs union deal, that they can bring down Theresa May, stop Brexit from happening, bring down the government, push for an election, push for a referendum. This is all, I'm afraid, about party politics, not about what is best for the country.
So guys, thank you very much. 1.2k viewers. So we've just done a little recap of what we're talking about there. I'm now going to go straight into some of your comments from our new viewers. So keep those comments piling in. No party to vote for now. That's from Michael Reeder. Alison Day, Labour is skidding. Would not trust him to run a bath. That's from Jean Mead. Excellent, guys. So this is really, really interesting stuff. I mean, I made the point earlier. I think Corbyn could actually really be consigning himself and his party to years and years and years of opposition, despite the fact he's made this cheap power grab now. He's selling out around 70% of his constituencies just down the river, because they all voted to leave, 70% of them. He's built this reputation as a man of deep conviction and principle, and actually he's sold that all down the river to try and get the keys to number 10, hasn't he? Really, hasn't that completely discredited his reputation in politics? Let us know what you think.
Now, I know that some Labour supporters clearly do think this is a big deal, because I'm looking at some of the Twitter trolls, and we're getting a little bit of stick on here, and it's all quite personal, it's all quite low class, which is fine. Look, you can throw it out. We're not snowflakes here. We can take a bit of banter. But I think it shows this sort of abuse that we're seeing from some Labour supporters now. I think it shows that you guys know, don't you, in your hearts of hearts, that this speech is a portrayal of what many working class, many Labour supporters went to the polls to vote for, which is to come out the single market, come out the customs union, take back control. And I think you'll be a little bit worried. And I don't think this is going to play out very well at all. I think this is, as I say, party before country from the Labour Party.
I'll tell you what I want to ask, all the people that are maybe chiming in saying, I'm just backing Corbyn. Now, if a lot of you are doing what I suspect you're doing, is that you've heard Jeremy Corbyn say something and you just agree with him because it's Jeremy Corbyn, then maybe get a mind of your own. The other thing that you can say is, how on earth, what is it? This is what I want to know. What are you so scared of? What are you so scared of about Britain having the ability to negotiate trade deals freely with the rest of the world?
I mean, how can that be a bad thing?
What are you so terrified of? What could possibly happen that you want to keep us trapped in this isolationist, protectionist little super-state run by unelected officials over there in Brussels? What has become of it? What has happened to you?
Well, look, the little Europeans had a go, didn't they? They had a go June 23rd, 2016 for the EU referendum, and you lost. Face it. Britain now, the British people voted to have a global Britain, negotiating global trade deals, controlling borders, making our own laws, and that's what we want to see. And for Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party to take this position purely, I think, to try and bring down the government is disgraceful. I think it reflects very badly, and I think the British people are going to be quite...
Well, it's also, just because we did a bit on Barry Gardner, the shadow trade minister before, and Jeremy Corbyn used this speech today to highlight, constantly poked holes in divisions in the Tory party. But I thought that was a little bit interesting, because as we've seen earlier on, Barry Gardner, as Trace actually said, basically said the customs union would be, quote, a disaster, any kind of customs union relationship.
Can we just get one of those clips back up? One of the
clearly,
just to show people that have just joined us.
So
this is Labour's main man on trade, let's not forget.
Yeah, so Barry Gardner, let's try and get this quote up now if we can. And he said, as a transitional phase, a customs union agreement might be thought to have some merit. However, as an endpoint, it is deeply unattractive. It would preclude us from making our own independent trade agreements with our 5 largest export markets outside the EU, that being the US, China, Japan, Australia and the Gulf states. What's changed, Barry?
It's farcical, guys. It's absolutely farcical. And we talked about Kate Hoey, another staunch Brexiteer, very principled man, Frank Field of the Labour Party. He at the weekend with some interesting comments as well. And I think that, the leadership clearly not listening to him on this. Frank Field basically saying that to Labour owners, are you going to rat on the people's decision to leave? The decision was quite clear, and in the North, Labour voters voted very, very clearly. Are you going to rat on them or not? Well, it appears that they are going to rat on it. It appears
done it, haven't they?
That this whole customs union stance, this politicking to try and basically cause problems in Parliament, to try and oust Theresa May, rather than do what's right for the country, rather than implement the wishes of the British people. That's what seems to be playing out now. And as I say, one more time, just to wrap this up, I think it's a terrible decision from Labour, and I think any idea of Jeremy Corbyn, this principled old socialist Eurosceptic, is now flushed down the toilet.
This is it. And just to pick up on some of your comments before Michael moves on to our new topic, basically saying someone's just called him here an untrustworthy snake. Someone said traitor. There's a lot of this language going around at the minute. Very sad for genuine Labour voters. People there just raising the question. Look, if you were a Labour supporter that genuinely voted for Brexit, which appears to be certainly the majority of them, I think, as far as we can tell, then, really, how do you feel about this? Is you that your leader is seemingly selling you down the river to appease some element, or just as a kind of power grab move? It's not good. And guys, look as well, we've got loads of you watching, so basically do please click sign up for our email bulletin.
It's on all of our stories. If we go to one of our stories there, you have to see it. It's just on the right hand side there, red alert, no BS. You just go on it. We'll keep you updated day to day of what is going on. Make sure you sign up to that. And you also see below that support. If you go to westmonster.com/support, if you support what we're doing, guys, if you want to see more shows, if you want to see us do more stuff, if you want to see Westmonster grow and you support the things that we stand for, please go to westmonster.com/support and help us if you can. Now, another sort of favourite topic of mine. I always love it when you see a Nigel Farage trip, when the bad boys of Brexit go over to America, because, we've got to make the special relationship great again. We've got President Trump over there now, of course. Rather than telling us to go back of the queue like Barack Obama, we've got President Trump there talking about big bumper US trade deal with the UK. And Nigel Farage he made a speech at CPAC, the conference over there. You can go and see the report of this on westmonster.com again. There you are. And Nigel basically saying if Brexit is betrayed, he pledged to return to frontline politics, saying that Trump's on his way to become a truly great president. But this is the bit that I think it relates to today in terms of this betrayal of Labour voters, basically saying if we may not get the Brexit we want, and if they do, in the worst case scenario, overturn the result and insult the intelligence and decency of the British people by making us have that vote again. And I tell you one thing, I will be straight back in the front line of that campaign. And I don't think the establishment want to see Nigel Farage go around the country again.
What do you make of that, guys? Because we touched upon a little bit earlier in the show, just saying, look, Labour would risk presumably losing a lot of its support base here. But apart from the fact there's nowhere at the minute for them really to go. UKIP's not thriving as it once was. A lot of these Labour supporters you would have thought are not going to switch allegiances to Theresa May. So where do they go? So, it's interesting. If Nigel came back into politics, would you be bang on board with that? Would you get behind him and maybe in some form of new party or something? Let us know what you think.
Yeah, and we also, another interesting thing he said, met with President Trump, again, this is on westmonster.com, and basically it was talking about this whole idea of this Brexit transition and how it is a potentially wasted opportunity, because the mixed messages out there apparently that they feel that, this is what Nigel said to the Sunday Telegraph, there are increasing concerns in the administration that a trade deal may now not be done in Trump's first term. They feel that because of the endless series of mixed messages, on the one hand Theresa May says we're going global, but on the other hand we're entering a transition deal that takes us past 2020. And of course that is a status quo transition that basically means during then you can sign trade deals but you can't even enact them. It means we can have open borders going into the 2020s. It basically precludes all of the things that Leave voters want to say. As you see on the graphic there, don't forget Wednesday, Friday and Monday, 1 o'clock, same time, same place, guys. If it's your first time watching us, we talk about the agenda that we think is most important, basically. Today it's the Jeremy Corbyn speech, but we do a lot on crime, we do a lot on violence, we do a lot of the terror threat. So go and visit westmonster.com, see what we're up to. And yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically what we've done here at Westminster is we've looked at the news, we've looked at the mainstream news, and we think, look, guys, this isn't really, it's all the same, isn't it? They're not telling you maybe what you should be hearing. They're just telling you what they think is best for you. And so here at Westminster, we're trying to do it differently. We want to do the news with you, not just for you. So please keep your comments coming in. This is an interactive form of news.
The last thing we're going to go on today, guys, we like to leave you with a smile on your face, of course. And there's a bit of Brexit good news, because there's a lot of doom and gloom you hear about, but actually there's a lot of good Brexit news. And Patrick, this story from the weekend.
Oh, well, there's nothing like Project Fear taking yet another kicking to really get you off your seats, is there? So the CEO of Barclays has come out and just said, I don't think Brexit's going to have a significant impact on London as a financial centre, and therefore Barclays as a whole. While they remain committed to Europe, he's basically just said London will be, quote, fine, and everything's going to be okay. So really interesting this, isn't it? Because if you remember, Project Fear were spouting out nonsense like bits of London were going to break off and fall into the Thames. There's going to be close to 1 million job losses. There's going to be an instant recession. Basically, things are going to spontaneously combust and the world as we know it's going to implode. Well, of course, none of this has happened, has it? And actually now you are seeing a really big pushback from big business, 63% of whom, by the way, board-level businessmen and women surveyed across the nation, actually support Brexit.
Last few comments, guys. Some good ones on Twitter, as normal. JC Senden saying Labour are finished. Technide saying Labour has betrayed many generations of its voters. Guys, I think today's a big day. For a long time, Jeremy Corbyn tried to take this position of being a sort of a principled Eurosceptic. What you're now seeing with this customs union position is a Labour Party turning its back on the idea of the UK going global and be able to do independent trade deals.
Well, just a last comment from me as well. It's a very good one here from Mike Dixon, just saying, true to form, Labour betraying British workers for decades while pretending to be their champion. And this is it. How can anyone on the left possibly really kind of say that they are there for workers' rights and at the same time seemingly be in favour of something that could then lead to single market access, single market where to flow the massive influx of cheap labour, filling in the bottom end of the economy, reducing jobs, lowering wages. Jeremy Corbyn, you need to give your head a wobble.
I love that one. Guys, if you support what we do, go to westmonster.com/support. We'll be back on Wednesday, same time, same place. Go and visit westmonster.com where you can see all of our stories as well. And we will see you then. Have a good week.
Take care, guys.